Hello, Gundam Seed fans. This is Speedball, and today for you guys, I have you for a very big Gunpla review, and of course, the first Gunpla review of the year from my channel. This is, of course, the high-grade Cosmic Era's own Gundam Seed Destiny Destroy Gundam in literally 1/44 scale. And when I'm saying that, I'm not kidding. That is literally the scale of this thing. And yes, this thing is a literal monster in many ways. But it is a very interesting model, my friends. I had a lot of fun building this. It was very interesting, I will say that again, mainly because of how both big it is, how nicely detailed it is, and good news, of course, for Seed fans in this case, very little stickers. Literally, don't worry. If you were wondering, oh no, it's another Seed kit, there's gotta be a buttload of stickers. Well, no, don't worry. We're in luck in this case. Bandai took their time with this, and in a good sense, actually, because yes, for those who aren't aware of this, this is the first time the Destroy Gundam has actually had an official Bandai model kit. There are other things of the Destroy Gundam, like collectible little things, or there was an old figure of the Destroy Gundam, but that one wasn't just regular scaled to the other Gundams, from what I remember. But an actual, like size accuracy and all that, in actual gunpla form, you're looking at it. This is the first ever Destroy Gundam model kit from Bandai, and yes, it is taking close to 20 years to get this model, but I think that's not a bad thing in this case, because in some cases, it's not bad to wait on some things, and in the Destroy Gundam's case, is definitely a good thing in this case. The reason why I say that, friends, is that we have to think for like a few seconds and realize that if we had per se gotten an earlier from the when the anime first aired and all that, that if we ever did get a Destroy Gundam back then, for one, it probably would have been a smaller kit, possibly a no grade or advanced grade kit. And honestly, as I've seen with a number of other Seed advanced grades and other such kits, would have needed a lot of paint. Literally, if we think about it for one quick second, that's going to need a lot of paint if it had been released all the way back then. But it's not. And that's what's so cool about this beast. It is perfectly color separate in the ways we want it the most. It's got so much cool details, and as you of course can notice right now, my friends, I do not have it in its Gundam mode because of course this is the Destroy Gundam, so of course we gotta at least show off its mobile armor mode, which is so cool, of course, because if any of you have seen the anime, which I will hopefully you will have by now, you'll of course know that this thing is a monster on the battlefield. It has taken down many mobile suits before it, though for some reason it always has a trouble against enemy Gundams. But yes, this is a very cool unit, my friends, and of course, for those who aren't aware, a very interesting version of another Seed incarnation of a famous, well-known Gundam Universal Centuries variant. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, a lot of Seed, especially in this case Destiny, related mobile suits have the tendency of mimicking or utilizing design aspects of stuff from the Gundam UC era. And it's really cool in a lot of cases. In this case, it's actually very interesting because this actually takes the concepts of two units. And I'll explain the second one later. But first, the first one being the, of course, relatable mobile armor that we're looking at, the Big Zam. Yeah, I honestly had forgotten about it, but then, of course, I remembered. And yes, this takes a lot of aspects of the Big Zam, for example. For one, giant legs. Literally, the Big Zam just has two big legs, so to speak, for its mobility, and of course, a very unique upper half. Normally, of course, torso, but of course, we're talking about mobile armor. So, well, yes, usually has that big upper half or upper torso area with firepower and such. Which, well, this unit definitely has, and that unique facial section that normally in the Big Zam's case would just been a mono eye, but in this case, it's actually this really cool regular eye setup, which looks very menacing. I mean, seriously, look, that is so cool. I mean, I can't even see. That is so menacing. Like, if you faced off against that and you saw that, you probably could be scared out of your mind. Well, yes, that is so cool with this, my friends. I definitely like it. The detailings works, proportions work pretty well, and all you can see as I spin it around for you, my friends, it just looks so epic, and just so you're not going to want to face this thing off with a GM, Zaku, or any just standard mobile suit, because you probably will not survive it. Now, of course, one you might ask about is this. Because of its unique setup here in its mobile armor form, what about its stability? That's actually the good thing with this kit, is that the stability of this kit actually holds up pretty well because of the big feet, of course, but also because Bandai designed special joint locking mechanisms throughout certain parts of the body, keeping certain sections in place, so that way you don't have to worry about such things, getting weak or just it toppling over out of nowhere. Plus, you also will have, as an accessory piece, is a stand piece right here with adapters for both forms, stand pieces to connect it to for certain poses and certain setups, including this literal giant freaking piece. This thing is literally almost as tall as the Destroy Gundam itself. That is literally how much plastic they put into this one piece. And don't get me started with other accessories, which I'll get into right now. Why not? And yes, if you're wondering, yes, this thing has a number of other accessories because, of course, this unit's biggest gimmick, of course, is the fire-powered wheels. And of course, when you have much firepower, you gotta have some accessories, including, no joke, a literal, if I can pick these up, buttload of beam sabers. I'm not kidding. These are all beam sabers, of course, to mimic beam blasts and other such effects. And yes, you get that many of them. And this is not even all of them. This is just the small ones you get for like the hands and other smaller ports. You also get these ones for the for pretty much the entire round area of the body. No joke. And there's that many of them. And these are just your standard beam saber sizes from small to this. So you can see there are two different sizes. So there's that. But that's not even the biggest ones you get either. The next ones are really interesting because, well, these are the biggest accessories you will get for it, and that is the dangerously large beam blast effects for the cannons. Yes, these are specifically, of course, for the cannons, being that, of course, the pegs on here are literally so big. I cannot think of many other ports that can fit this outside of like a 160 scale kit. And I'm not kidding, these things are that long and that big. In fact, if I can on my camera setup, I will show you like that. So you can all see that is how you simply plug them in and how long it is attached to the Destroy Gundam itself. And that is just one portion of what you can do with the beam effects, of course. But we'll get into the other parts in a bit. But as you can see, all the cool ports you have here around the side here for the other energy effects like such. Oh, sorry, wrong one. There it is. Like you see here, you just plug all the bigger ones onto the ring, like I mentioned, for other such fun parts and effects for battle, of course, and other such things. Now, of course, come on out. There you go. And then you would attach the smaller ones onto the hand that's under here, which I'll show you in a second how that would look, and so forth. And now, as for articulation in this form, pretty much it's just the cannon. You can move up and down like such. You can leave it up if you want, put it down. You can pull the arms down to a certain point, of course, and the legs, of course, can still go up and back like such. But only so far because of the locks and just because of the fact it's a reversed leg setup right now. So there's that. All right, my friends, if you give me one quick sec, I will now transform the Destroy Gundam for you to see how you both do it, and of course how it will look afterwards. There it is, my friends, the Destroy Gundam in its Gundam mode. And as you can see, this thing is a literal tall beast as well in this form as its previous form. And yes, this thing looks really accurate to the anime, really cool and very menacing. And for its UC incarnation counterpart, it looks very much like its friend and twin, the Psycho Gundam from Gundam Zeta. And yes, that is pretty much what the Destroy Gundam was based on for both the stature, design, and of course the story/characters involved in the anime, which if you haven't seen, go ahead and watch if you want. But yes, this is that kind of setup, my friends, and it is that big, and dang, it is very menacing and powerful looking. Though it's sad, though, in the anime, because after the first appearance, the Destroyer Gundam just kept getting slaughtered left and right after that. I mean, I remember the one episode with it when the Destiny and Legends Gundams were just slaughtering them left and right. It's just crazy. But yeah, but back to this, of course. Let's see. Now, as you can see, the details from the face all the way down to the feet are really accurate. There was no painting involved in any of that. Complete color separate. The only paint work I did at all was for the cameras, the eyes, and 1 second. As you just saw, these parts right here, these jeweled looking parts right there, and that is because in the anime, these would show about a beam shield effect like you'd see on the Strike Freedom, for example. And yeah, now unfortunately we did not get that with these for these, and that's the sad part. It would have been really cool to have seen that for this, because in the anime, when well, as you can see, the arm can detach. So when they are, normally the shield will pop up like that, and then a beam shield will pop up to defend it. So it would have been really cool to have seen that. Sorry, bummer on that one, but you still get all the other beam effects that we still have that I mentioned that you can play around with these, like when you take one of these big ones and attach it here, you just got a standard shooting effects deal. But as I was mentioning before with the smaller ones, and as you're about to see here, and yes, as you just saw, the fingers are all separate, completely separate and completely articulated. You can literally pull off some pretty fun poses with these, as you can see, just for a fun idea. And yes, you can pull off many poses with these fingers and such. Now, I haven't heard any issues with people like loot breaking or any of that kind of stuff and such. I mean, they look pretty great and they're fun to play with. And of course, so many possible poses you can put it in. But one that you'll probably want to do is, of course, with the mini sabers, as I was mentioning, just simply plug them into the top of the fingers, pretty much literally fingernails. I'm not kidding in this case. You can make beam fingernails pretty much when you attach them into every finger if you wanted, or into any finger specifically. And there you go. You literally have a beam hand attack, large, wide, and so forth. And it's so cool. And so many fun poses and gimmicks you can do with such an attack and so forth. And if you are wondering, besides that, yes, because the arms are detachable, if you happen to have a spare stand piece, you can attach it right here to this port right in there to make the arms fly, so to speak, and such. And reattaching to the body is pretty simple. All you got to do is just reattach to the pegs right there on the arm, and there you go. And it stays on pretty well. There's no looseness or anything. It's easy to take off, but easy to put right back, so there's no worries. Now, one thing you might want to know, of course, when it's in the Gundam mode is, yes, because of the now additional backpack, yes, the Gundam will now be a bit back heavy. Luckily, as you can see, you can stand it up in normal poses with it without falling too much, but note, because the beam cannons do move around still, if they fall backwards, the chances are the Gundam's going to fall backwards, just a heads up, which is, of course, why you were given the extra stand pieces. So there you go for that. Now, of course, as for articulation-wise, yes, there are much more articulation possibilities with this now set up, because now all the joints are freed up to do any poses you want with it. For example, bring this a little closer so you guys can see. The shoulder has this full range this way. It can go out this way. You can extend the arm out because there's a joint set up in there. There's a double elbow joint, so you can, with a little mush, bend the arm all the way up this way. Bend the hand, of course, this way if you want. So you can do that as far as you can. The arm, of course, can be turned around because of the setup for the transformation. So there's that. Full 360, like that. Head is on a ball joint and joint setup, so you can do, yes, and just the old-fashioned did it, and you can spin it all the way around without it bumping anything, if you're wondering. Now, if you're wondering about the head, unfortunately, the big beams or even the smaller beam effects cannot plug into the mouth, if you were wondering, because yes, that is one of the normal gimmicks, sadly, but no, the mouthpiece is too small, sorry. Though I have thought about putting them in the here for the gauntlet, for the Vulcans, but no, sorry. But they do, however, attach to the chest section, as you can see right here. So, I mean, in a funny sense, if you're thinking about it, yes, you can give the Destroy Gundam literal beam nipples. I don't know why anyone would, but that's just a silly thought out there. As you can see, you can attach to all the ports there with no problem, just for attacks, of course, and other such things. Now, of course, back to articulation-wise, if you give me one quick sec, you can, of course, turn the waist as far as you want, because, of course, you turn it around for transformation. As for legs, because the skirt armor is movable, you can go about that far that way, and that far, of course, before bumping into the giant backpack. leg can, of course, bend as far as possible before bumping into armor again. Do note one thing I've seen with this is that, unfortunately, the specific red section here, it attaches on just fine. The problem is you can also pull it off pretty simply, but it will stay on the body. It just floats there, if just a heads up. But as for feet, you can go this far, you can go all the way that far, and of course if you extend the heel out again, there you go, just extra stability if you want, and such for fun like that. And as for the torso area, you can actually do some poses because it actually does have a bend. Yes, it has an ab crunch, so you can crunch your enemies to death if you want it. And of course, the back section, of course, still has its joint set up where you can hinge it and so forth back into place or pose it out any way you want. And if you're wondering, yes, you can still play around with the cannons because the cannon's joints back here can now extend it to where it will now look like that over the back and like that for battle and such. Sorry if I can't get it into screen, my friends. It is a bit tricky because of how tall this thing is, literally. But yeah, you can set it up like that, which of course will allow you to use your giant beam effects back onto the cannon for attacks and so forth. So yes, it is a very interesting and very playable Gundam to play with. It's just so much fun in so many ways. And as for size-wise, yes, because as I mentioned, this is a 144 unit. Real quick. Let's do a quick size comparison so you can see how it actually looks with other 144 units. Like its fellow Fetty friend, the Strike Dagger. And yes, I'm not kidding, that's 144 high grade with 144 high grade. So that is how big this kit is. A classic, but a friend. The good old buddy Goon. And yes, he can crush it easily. Someone very important to the pilot of the Destroy Gundam, the Impulse Revive, which I recently reviewed for you guys. But yes, as you can see, that is how big the Destroy Gundam is to even that. And that is insanely awesome. And lastly, for high grade wise, here is a, well, let's just say someone that doesn't really have fondness of the Destroy Gundam, and, well, you'll have to watch the anime for certain details. But as you can see, yes, that is the Freedom revived with the Destroy Gundam as well in its height. Now you might ask, what about 1/100 scales? Well, luckily for you, my friends, I happen to have the 1/100 FM Freedom, and yes, that's a 1/100 to this 144. That literally is how big they are in difference for something of this stature. So one thing you might ask would be is, what if we ever got a 1/100 Destroy Gundam? Well, for one, I'd hate to see the price tag, and two, it would, I don't have the measurement offhand, but it would have to at least be the equivalent of a 160 or more. I'd have to take a guess at that, at least a guess at most, my friends. And like I said, the price too. That's the one flaw to the Destroy Gundam, in my one small opinion, is that yes, unlike most other high grade C kits and such, and just more normal high grades, yes, this is one of the more expensive high grades out there because the fact the standard price for this kit is literally over $100. Yeah, be glad it's not P Bandai. But speaking of P Bandai, and we'll throw in G Base for fun, what about possibilities for other releases? Because from my personal knowledge and offhand, I do not believe the Destroy Gundam has any actual other variants that would, well, give it a reason to be P Bandai and such. But G Base, however, might be a different story for the future. For example, well, as we've seen with previous Seed and such kits from G Base, we could possibly see a clear or a metallic release of this. I'm not saying we will. I'm just saying I'm not going to be like 100% surprised. I will say that. But yeah, I mean, yeah. This was, and like I said, friends, this was a fun build, but one small mention to note before I go into my final thoughts. If you are wondering about all the beam effects you do have, unfortunately it's odd, but maybe, I don't know if it was just my copy specifically, but I noticed that you do get a lot of beam effects to do all the ports, but not enough to finish all the ports, so to speak. What I mean is that you have enough of the beam effects to fill in pretty much almost all the ports, but you actually are missing at least one small beam saber to fit in the hands if you were planning to display this with every beam effect. And I tried that. I'm not kidding. I did try that. And yeah, so if you were wondering, yes, you will need a small spare beam saber like this one I have to fill in the final port if you were curious. Now, for my final thoughts, friends, yes, I could easily recommend this kit for a lot of reasons. For one, if you like big gunpla kits, this will give you a fun challenge. If you like mobile armors or just monster-sized kits, there's another reason. And lastly, of course, if you're a big Gundam Seed, Destiny, and Freedom fan, you're gonna probably want this beast in your collection for a lot of reasons. Because for one, I really do not see a 1/100 coming in our future. I'm sorry. It's not that I want. It's just picture the size of that thing standing in your collection. Just picture it. Trust me. You'll get the idea. But yes, I definitely can recommend this kit and I hope you will consider picking it up. Though I definitely suggest do not pick it up after market prices or anything like that because it will be scalped like crazy and it will be a pain in the butt. Now I say that because being how much the retail price is, the scalp price will probably be double that. So please keep that in mind. So if you are to get this kit, I hope that you can get it on retail value. So that is it, my friends. I thank you always for coming. I hope you're all enjoying your hobby, and I will gladly see you all next time.